Hello, Floss Tube World. Welcome to my podcast. The name of my podcast is Socks for Mom, and I will tell you why it's named that in a little bit further along. But this is my introductory video to the Floss Tube World, which I recently have just discovered, and I'm pretty excited about it. You guys are knitting incredible things, and you have whet my appetite to dive right back into that pool of stitching again. I may interchange my words a lot because I am a fanatic knitter, and my stitching kind of took a backside to that through the last years. So I may forget and lapse and think I'm talking to knitters, and I hope you will be patient with me because I'm going to try to have floss tube videos and knitting videos. We'll see how that goes. So anyways, as I said, my name is Becky, and I am coming to you from the Lone Star State of Texas. I'm in East Texas on 65 acres that we inherited from my father-in-law. Prior to that, we lived in Colorado for 25 years, and probably most of my life has been there. I moved all over the country when I was growing up, and my love of stitching started back when I lived in Virginia, and I was in college, and I was smitten by all the samplers I saw everywhere in the colonial homes, and that's where my love of stitching began. And probably, let me think, I don't have the first things that I ever cross-stitched. My mom probably does, but I'm thinking it may have started when I was dating my husband. I was working on a sampler for myself, and he was a sailor. He liked to sail. He had a sailboat, and that's how you say it if you're Texan, sailboat, not sail. I can't even say that word. And I stitched him several cross-stitch pictures of different kinds of sailboats, not really knowing that that's probably not something a guy really wants for a present, but I did several of those for him and had them framed when we were dating. And then when we got married, Precious Moments was a big deal, and I stitched some of those. I believe my pillow in my wedding was cross-stitched. And so anyways, when I started my home, it was in the early 80s, and country was really big. And as I said, I stitched some samplers for our home, which unfortunately, they're probably in a box somewhere. My husband is still looking for them, but we have not unpacked everything since we've moved here. So I can't really show you those early samplers, but I can show you some of the things I started my home with. Because, of course, the first thing you do is you make Christmas stockings, right? So I made one for my husband and me, and we met in Sunday school, so our faith is a big part of our life. And I found these, let's see, I think his goes first. Actually, I guess probably this was after we had our first daughter, because it does say Daddy and Mommy on it. And I found this was a series by Mary Bill, I think her name is. And I think she has maybe 8 of these. And they tell the Christmas story. Each one starts with the beginning of the story. And there you see Joseph and Mary. And I stitched that in 1989, actually. Yeah, this is the order it came in. Mine came next. And there Mary gives birth. And as you see, this is very much the sampler style, which is what I was really, really into, and still am into that. Now, I had intentions to make these for our family. We had 2 daughters. That's the next thing I should tell you. I have 2 grown daughters, Jennifer and Allison. They're both in their 30s. One's a chemical engineer and the other one is a pediatric nurse. And I'm very proud of them. I homeschooled them, and that makes me even more proud of what they were able to go on and do when they graduated. So Jennifer, at that time, there was a magazine coming out, Cross Stitch Sampler, I think. I can't remember the name of it. But I made her this one, and you can see it's very much 80s country kind of stuff. And I think I stitched everything that came out in those magazines. I recently threw them out. I wish I had not done that, but I made Christmas ornaments. I stitched so many things out of this, and those were the 80s. And then when we moved into the 90s, we had moved to Colorado by then, or back to Colorado for me, because that's where I had moved to Texas from. And we're moving into the 90s, and let me look around here. Lavender and lace was really popular at the time, all the angels. And you can see right here, actually her head's cut off, I guess. There is one right there hanging. And they're very bead intensive. And I made my mother the one that's probably their flagship one, where her whole front of her is entirely beaded, and it's beautiful, and my mother loves that, and she still loves that. I stitched, so I'm going to say that all the time. I'm going to say I knit it. I stitched that one for my daughter, and I have another one here that is not quite finished, but by the time I was done with these, she's upside down. By the time I was almost finished with these, my girls were out of college and starting their own homes, and they really were not interested in this style. Understandably, because at that time we had moved up from Colorado Springs. Oh wait, let me show you. Speaking of Colorado Springs, I had an incredible framer down there. And so I did those 2 samplers for my daughters, one for my mom, and this is the one I picked for me. And I picked this for me because it's a mother of 2 girls, which is what I have. And you can see it's completely covered. The shadowing in her skirt, look at that. It's just incredible. I really did love the lavender and laces. And I had an amazing framer down there, as you can see. It scalloped out the bottom of the skirt. And that's what made me fall in love with cross stitching again, because of these were hanging in a shop down there. So around 2000, we moved up to a log home way up in the mountains. I was at 9,035 foot elevation, and all of a sudden my lavender and lace and all my Victorian style decorating did not seem like it fit in a mountain home. So I started stitching mountain things. First thing I made was this sampler, and I loved, this is one of my favorite verses right here. Lord, plant my feet on higher grounds. And there's my name and the county that I lived in. So I will tell you though that there's not a whole lot of stuff out there that fits, that is mountainy. At that time, I also would cross stitch on waist canvas on sweatshirts and stuff, different things, bears and whatnot. And then I found these. So I had a whole bunch of these moose pillows like this. There was a whole series of them. But at that time, my daughters were in college and the knitting bug bit me. And the knitting bug has not gone away. And I have not stitched a whole lot until recently. I have a lavender and lace sampler that I'm going to show you in a little bit that I'm still working on. But as I said, I had a knitting injury and I was supposed to stop knitting while it healed up. And in that process, I was watching Shauna of Adelaide Cottage, and she started showing these floss tubes. And then she's a knitter like I am. And then she started showing some of those, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I can work on that sampler while I'm healing. And I found out that I could indeed do that. I could put pillow behind my neck. I could put my magnifying glass right there, my aunt lamp, and kind of do this, and I was good to go. And so then I started watching Floss Tube. Oh dear, there are not knit-alongs, but there are stitch-alongs. And I quickly started ordering some things, and then mania started. And I knew I've lived a long time, and I knew that from all the knitting projects that were UFOs, unfinished, and how that made me anxious. I knew I would not start 18 things in May, but I thought I would do 5 things because May is the 5th month. So I think it's time for me to show you what I am stitching on. But before I do that, let me see if there's any other questions. Other crafts that I do: I knit, I spin wool, apply it into yarn. I weave. I have 2 looms. I have 2 spinning wheels. I knit. I do some hardanger. I do cross stitch, and I quilt. So I spread myself thin all over the place, but the stitching bug definitely has me, and I will show you what I'm working on. Okay, before I go on, I want to tell you why I'm called Socks for Mom. I don't think I'm going to come up with another name, stitchy kind of name, because I still make the knitting podcast, and I have a group on Ravelry. If you are a knitter, my Ravelry name is Socks for Mom, and there's a group over there for the podcast. But I am called Socks for Mom. Actually, my daughter gave me that way back when Gmail started, and she came up with a Gmail name for me because I was knitting a lot of wool socks at the time. When I started knitting again when they were in college, that's why I wanted to knit, because I wanted to take a portable project around with me, and I wanted to make wool socks because we lived in the mountains where it's cold, and I really didn't feel like I could bring stitching around with me. I needed good light at that time, and so anyways, that's my name, Socks for Mom, and it's M-U-M, because I will answer another one of the questions. My favorite, I really can't tell you a favorite book because there are so many favorite books. I can tell you that I love British literature, and one of my favorite authors is Charles Dickens. And with the British lit, since I homeschooled my daughters, when we were reading a lot of the Jane Austen books and when they were studying British literature, we would have tea every afternoon. And it was about the time that all the Jane Austen movies were coming out. And my daughter started calling me Mum at that time. And she still calls me Mum because she knows that I just love all things British like that. My favorite TV show would actually be the things that come out from over there, from across the pond. I love the PBS shows. I love all the remakes of some of the classic books. Anyway, that answers two of my other questions. So, this is something that has been on my frame for a long, long time. This is a lavender and lace, and it's called Mother's Tree. And it's called that because, as you see, the maiden names are in the middle of each one of those names. And it's so-and-so is the mother of so-and-so is the mother of so-and-so is the mother of so-and-so. And I spent, a few years ago, I was really into the family genealogy doing research. And so I really loved this, and I really wanted to document the women in our family. And I'm able to go back to 1797, as you see right here, to a woman named Elizabeth Gwynn Henderson. And she was born in 1797. I'm not sure if she was born, this is a Welsh name. I'm not sure if she was born in Virginia or if she just, her family was from Virginia. But her husband's grandfather, who would have been my great five greats, was from Scotland. And so that is the beginning of my genealogy as far as I can go back on the woman's side. It's very difficult to trace the women's side of it because men were the ones that held the property. And so it's harder to trace a woman's side unless you find out who her brother is. And I have not been able to do that. So I really do want to finish this. It is on some kind of linen. It's too old for me to even know. It looks like it may be 35 count or 32 count. It is a little bit tedious because I have to graph out the names on the chart and I need to make sure everything's aligned properly. So that has been on the needles, on the cross stitch needle for a very long time. And then this I bought a few years ago. And I loved it because a little sheep, and I was a knitter. It's a pin cushion. Look at the weeping willows are gonna be really a lot of fun to do. Being sarcastic. It's called Yellow House Pin Cushion by Elizabeth Ann Toledo. And this is all I have done on that. And it uses, I think it uses the Gentle Art. It uses some classic color works. And then I bought this one around Christmas time. Hold on. I lost the picture of it. Sorry. I'll just have to show you what I have done. It is almost done. It's called, it's going to say something winter woolens. I can't remember what that word is that's above it. Warm winter woolens. And I love this because of the gold there. There will be some white down here. And there will be snowflakes right up here. And that is probably going to be done by the end of Stitch Mania. My Stitch Mania goals were to work on these 3 things that I already had on the cross stitch needles. And then I picked up 2 more new things. So I just started this during Stitch Mania. It's by Plum Street Samplers. And I love her samplers. I love everything that she does because I majored in history in college, and like I said, I love the samplers. And she has so many historical ones. I was a little bit surprised. I bought exactly what it called for. And this is, I don't have the paper with me, but this is Weeks Dye linen. And it's a little bit a different color than this. And I really like how this one looks. But I think I'll be okay with it. It is 1 strand over 2. Yep. And that also uses, let's see, that uses these colors right here. So there's Wood Smoke, Raven, Shaker White. So it has some gentle art, and it also has some Simply Shaker. So nice. And then my last Stitch Mania thing that I'm really excited about, and it's hard for me to put this away, actually I just started yesterday, is, yep, I am jumping on the Mustang Sally band. I've seen you guys talking about it, and I've seen your work on Instagram. By the way, I'm Socks for Mom on Instagram. And I got those colors in. Let's see. They are right here. I just got the ones called for, but I did not get the linen that was called for it, because I had this on hand and I actually really like the color of it. I think it's Witchelt something. Sorry, I will learn to remember those things, but this is all I have so far. This is very rustic kind of linen. It's got fat and thin. That's what we call it, I think, in weaving, when you got fat. It's got some slubs in it. But I love, love, love that red. Is so beautiful. Let's see, where did it go? And like I said, I took it last night to next to my bed and I worked on it with a lamp, and it was just hard to put it away. But this is so beautiful. All the variation. It's called Buckeye Scarlet. So I am on the Mustang Sally train, and I heard about one other knit along that I'm not knit along, not spin along, stitch along, that I want to do, that I heard Donna Barrow talking about, and it's you may already know about it, or if you just watch her podcast. And Donna, if you're watching this, I love your podcast. I love seeing about all those bees and all of that stuff you're sharing. But she is going to be doing a stitch along with, I think it's a Quaker sampler. I've got it ordered. It starts June 23rd. I will put the notes in the down bar. I will put a link to that in the down bar. I'm really excited about that. It will be lots and lots of fun to stitch along with some of you and to get to know some of you. I thought I was a lone stitcher, and now I find there's a whole world of you out there. And I love how so many of you share your faith so easily. And that's really refreshing to me to hear that. I always end my knitting podcast with a quote from Elizabeth Zimmerman, who was an incredible knitter that many of us knitters look up to. And I find that it's probably appropriate for stitching too. It goes like this. It's in the rhythm of the needles. I'll just say needle. In the rhythm of the needle, there is music for the soul. So happy stitching, you guys. Thanks for taking the time to watch my first floss tube video. And I look forward to watching yours and seeing all the things you're working on. My pocketbook is going to take a little bit of a hit, I think. Thanks, guys. See you soon.